Hi, we're having a conversation with David Wilson. He is information literacy librarian at the Trinity University. What do we know now about information literacy that we didn't know before, say 10 years ago, 15 years ago?
Well, it's been about 10 years since the Association of College and Research Libraries developed a set of standards, information literacy competency standards. And really what this all comes down to is looking at our ability to evaluate information, to understand, access, use information ethically, and synthesize, create new things with it. That's sort of the way we define information literacy at Trinity University, our interpretation of it.
And what does using information ethically mean?
Using information ethically, well, that comes down to the idea of properly attributing the sources that we use, avoiding plagiarism, whether it's unintentional or by accident, educating our students and each other about the proper ways to use ideas and information in the creation of something new without stealing information from other people's ideas. But to answer better your first question about why is this important now, we live in an era where it seems that everything we need in terms of information with the web and Google is very close to hand. You can type in any search in Google and immediately come up with 9 billion results. So it feels at first glance that we can easily get to anything. But really, what we're finding in library land and in research in academic libraries is that our students are having more trouble doing research now, good research. There is so much available that now the burden is on them to evaluate what they're getting back. And it's much more difficult now to go through the list of that first search in Google and determine what is credible, what is authoritative, what is a good site to use, or in fact, should you be using a website at all, how can we get people back to journal articles, research, the kinds of information that would be that you could build something upon in school research, academic research.
And what is the response of students and professors in front of information literacy and the whole idea?
Right. Well, for our students and our faculty, the response has been pretty amazing, actually. We're very lucky to have developed a 5-year plan that's tied into our accreditation at Trinity University that actually builds improving information literacy in our student and in our curriculum into a university sort of mission that's been funded and that's happening class by class, course by course as we work individually with faculty and students. So for the faculty, for our professors, many of them are waving their hands and saying, oh, thank goodness, I am getting better work from my students. I am not seeing sloppy papers. I'm not seeing as much of the quotes, the copy and paste. I'm seeing an improvement in the quality of scholarship in the students. And this is very new. We've been doing this. We're in about the 2nd year of our program. And working individually, we're just starting to see some great feedback on some of the improvements in student work.
And what are the means that you use in order to reach the students?
Mm-hmm. Well, there are a number of different ways to do this, but in our library, for instance, and in many academic libraries in the States, we have basically each librarian at Trinity University is associated as a liaison to a particular academic department. So for instance, some of the departments I work with, communication studies, philosophy, film studies, medieval and Renaissance studies even. And what that relationship means is we work very closely with the teaching faculty to look at their assignments with them when they want us to and see what kinds of resources do we have access to in article databases, the books in our book collection that would actually really target the student's success at completing a particular assignment. So we have that close work. We bring lots of individual students in for information literacy instruction targeted to a particular assignment. Okay, so a particular research assignment is coming up. We bring them in and work very specifically with them on the skills Not just, the ready, quick fix, here, how to get this, but the skills that are transferable to complete that assignment and then move on to the next task they have in another class that we may or may not be working with.
Speaking about skills, if I were a student, what would you recommend? Where should I begin?
Where should you begin? You should begin by developing a set of criteria or remembering a few questions to ask yourself about any sort of information that you're looking at, whether you're on your own and you're pulling up a website or you've gotten to a scholarly journal article that you may or may not be able to use for a paper. But questions like, who wrote this? Are they an authority? Who put this information? What organization sponsored this? When was it written? Is the time period that this piece was written or the web page put up on the web, is this going to work or support what I'm doing, or is it completely irrelevant? It's about working on the skill of evaluating the information they get, but also the nuts and bolts, the skills of how do you get to it? How do you use something as complicated at first glance as a research database, as an article database? Like the very same kinds that you have here at UFM.
And finally, does this require more responsibility on the side of the researcher?
Absolutely. Responsibility. Responsibility to be thorough in the questions that you ask and in documenting the sources that you use. We talked about the ethical use of information briefly a moment ago, and other issues that come up now in the digital era would have to do with stuff that Creative Commons and licensing and copyright, even down to information literacy as it relates to images in a presentation. So, I mean, it really is about more, it's not about libraries and it's not about books and it's not about drumming up business for us at the library or anything like that. It's sort of, those of us who've been working on it almost have a zeal to, really improve student learning, not just so they succeed with the paper, but so when they leave us and they go into a career, they become maybe a doctor, maybe a lawyer, they have those skills to call upon. They have those skills even when they're searching for the job, evaluating, how do you go about researching a company that you might work for.
We have talked about skills for students, yeah. But how do you help faculty? Well,
the way that we really help faculty consider these ideas is because of the connection with our accreditation through the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools, and the fact that it's a 5-year plan. We have some funding to give grants to faculty who would like to experiment a little bit. So we offer grants for faculty who want to completely develop a brand new class that is in their area of study, but that considers, that includes assignments that target these information literacy skills and give students experience. We have grants for that and grants for, well, I have a course that's been quite successful, but there's a piece of it that I've never been quite satisfied with. I'd like to try something new. So we also give another grant for a course revision that also includes a new information literacy assignment. So that work with the faculty then becomes, well, really one of the best things in life, a good collaboration. Talking one-on-one, these are my goals as a teacher, and these are ways that we could bring out those goals. And the collaboration that results in a great new assignment that takes the students farther along to where we all hope they are when they leave a class or when they leave the university.
Well, David, thank you very much for sharing these ideas with us, and thank you.